So, good morning, good evening. Once again for this Thursday night show, we're talking about we're going to be rounding up an overview in the action of a Europa League action with Arsenal, and I've got my good friend James Rowe here with me. We might be talking about a little bit of our Premier League action as well, but let's see how we get on with this one. James, how have you been this week?
Very well, thank you, Alex. Been reflecting on being able to of the 6 Europa League games. I was very happy with that from a personal point of view, and World Cup, and should be an interesting couple of weeks ahead.
Yeah. James, I want you to have a look at the table. This is the final table now, Group A. Have there been any surprises for you, results-wise? Any surprises?
I of FC Zurich, but obviously changing their manager in between the campaign. How well FC Zurich played. You know, I thought they hit the post against Arsenal. They hit the bar. Their fans were extremely raucous, extremely raucous. You know, we were, I wouldn't say lucky to win the game, but a better team would have. When I look at the 3 of the 6 games that I attended, being 3-0, losing 2-0 in Eindhoven, and beating FC Zurich at home with that lot. But as I said before, you only have to look at the playoff round to see who's coming in 16. And if you look who's already in for the last 16, along with our the likes of Real Sociedad, the likes of Real Betis, Freiburg as well, to see who we get drawn against on February the 24th, and I'm hopeful.
Sorry, I thought you cut off there for a second. Sorry. Actually, I wanted to give a shout out. I wanted to say welcome back to Unai Emery, who's now back in the Premier League. And boy, what a result, James!
Fantastic. It's for all the money involved in football, for all the commercialism in football, the game is unpredictable. And isn't it marvelous how he takes up this, and how his dream is to win a trophy with Aston Villa, and I believe he will. I'll stick cup with Aston Villa. I'm not saying it's going to happen this season nor next, but he will also not have Edu and Ralston busting his door down. You know, if he says he wants Will Saha, they're not going to go and say. You know, they're going to buy who he wants them to buy. So I'm delighted for him. He returns to play Arsenal again on his home patch of Villa Park, and it will be very, very interesting to see how it comes together. I think a lot of Arsenal fans are very select out of the Europa League and went on to win it. There were no Arsenal fans in that stadium, but I don't think that. I still think they would have knocked us out over 2 legs, which they did. So I think some people had it for him, Alex, and it just goes to show in football you never keep surprising you at every turn.
Yeah. So just now phasing back into the Europa League, which teams, now we know that we've qualified for the next stage now, which teams definitely do you think Arsenal should try and avoid in the draw, James?
Real Betis, Real Sociedad, along with I'd say if Rennes get through their playoff against Shakhtar, the 3 that I don't want. I mean, it would be nice to go to Seville. It would be lovely to go to San Sebastian. I believe that Real Betis and Real Sociedad will knock us out over 2 legs. The hype surrounding Barcelona, nothing short of incredible. I'm not sure that Barcelona will beat Manchester United over 2 legs, and I think Manchester. So we could end up with a domestic team as well in the last 16, and and how it all comes together. We've just got to respect every single opponent. You know, I mean, I've been at European games at the Emirates before. If it's not Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, or Barcelona, everyone else is a pub team, which nothing could be further from the truth. Returned from Amsterdam to see us get beat by Monaco, to see us get beat by Ostersund, to have difficulty with Rennes, to struggle against Napoli in the first exchanges of that game. And I'll go on record as saying that the hypes of the league, well, I can't quite believe it. And also in Serie A, I'll go on record anything. You know, I've spoken to the Danish player Michael Lum, who played at St. Petersburg, and he used to tell me that he used to have fights with his players in training, fisticuffs. Now, for how well somebody's doing, that will go out like a candle. It will literally fizzle out, you know, in that respect. I just think that people are jumping on the bandwagon, to be honest, and I think that's I think the Champions League, I think the Saint-Germain, I think we're in with a shout. Bayern are not that good. I think they're quite over. AC Milan, I think they'll dispatch of Tottenham over 2 legs. It's amazing. We were told that Olivier Giroud's not going to win you a Premier League, but Olivier goes on to win the Champions League, Europa League, and a Serie A. So
incredible.
I don't know if it's deliberate. I really don't. You know, I was there when he scored his very first Arsenal goal against Scotland in 2011, and he went on to score over 100 goals for Arsenal. But some people would say, "Oh, Giroud, he's not going to win you a Premier League," but he leaves Arsenal and wins Serie A, wins League, so it's not that bad, is he? And
not bad.
I maintain for 12 million euros.
That's an absolute steal, isn't it? An absolute steal.
Yeah, pretty
James, I don't want to, run from pillar to post, but can I get your thoughts very quickly about the World Cup? Now, we know this will last a couple of days. Gabriel Jesus and Gabriel Martinelli have been called up for the national squad to represent Brazil. But there's some question mark over Gabriel Magalhães. Do you think the World Cup will be a massive distraction for our players, much less for all the other teams who are going to have players going off to the World Cup?
May happen only once in their lives. We hope not. But you've got to be pleased for Martinelli because I didn't think he'd get in. So I'm delighted for him. And Gabriel Magalhães. I think when you've got Marquinhos, when you've got Militao, there's enough quality there to leave Gabriel at home.
Yeah.
Some great work done by Tim Vickery, the British journalist, been based in South America. He's the best of the best. I caught a snippet with him today where he was saying that he doesn't appear to trust Gabriel Magalhães and that he would prefer to have. He had him in the plate and wanting to choose Marquinhos, wanting to choose Thiago Silva, and I think Brazil. And I will be shocked if we don't welcome Martinelli, Biel Jesus home as world champions. My money has gone on Brazil. I think it's a country. I thought they were very unlucky 4 years ago against Belgium. Really, really unlucky, equalising goal. And I just think this is their time. And I think when you do the 6th title, when you look at the history, not having won it for 20 years, if it clicks that the winner is always the best player. In an ideal world, a 9th country would win, but I still think that it's going to be one of the 8 countries that have won it before Brazil's time. I'm delighted for all the African countries as well, coached from their own country. I think that's something which has not been hammered home enough by, if you look at Cameroon when I was a young boy, my first proper in 1990, when you have the likes of Thomas and Kono, when you have the likes of Roger Miller, Oman Biig, they were representing their people, and they were very unlucky not, and they beat the reigning champions in the opening game in Milan. Had a fantastic. That's why we know their name now. That's why we know their names, because they rep to the best of their ability. And I think in this World Cup, I think Tunisia are going to have a good World Cup. Are going to have a good World Cup. So it'll be very interesting. Lots of surprises. I'm feeling of people saying, I'm not going to watch it. Well, the World Cup is life. I've had every official book since 1990. And because it's something which happens every 4 years. If you don't watch it, they have different rules to different countries, something which needs to be respected. You can't expect them to be as further on as other countries, and it's a work in progress. And I think it's very tight. Blatter said that the Qatar World Cup was a mistake. Reading through the lines, it was Platini who lobbied for Qatar. His son, a very cushy job, and that's how it's all come together. But countries have and associations, they have a responsibility. I mean, you remember the good of the game. It's what it used to be, for the good of the game, and it's just stripped away. I mean, if you look at nationality now, where privilege to choose which nationality they want to represent, use your choice, you stick with it. But now it's just a friendly game if you want to check. But therein lies the decay to international football. I've just touched on Cameroon players from 32 years ago that I've just reeled off by heart, who have represented their people. They were pure. The clue is in the names. Cyril Yeek, Roger Miller, Thomas and Kono. People started to sit up and take notice. Cameroon, that's with the big lion on it. You never saw that. And it's important to embrace. And I think that this, you've got to cut some things. I mean, I know Italy didn't qualify, but if you hear the names of some Emerson Palmieri and Jorginho, then you know that in the case of Emerson, he was capped by Brazil at youth level. So to me, it's very much a selling of the soul, And maybe I'm a fan. Diego Costa the same. I don't think his Spanish was up to much neither. I think it's fine. And I always say as well with foreign managers, Minister, would you? And then when I say that, they go, "Oh no, we wouldn't." I said, "Well then, it's just exactly the same thing." I said to a recent colleague of mine, I said, "You imagine Olaf Scholz and Macron in charge of England, Mark Rutte in charge of Germany. Why not try that?" But I think this World Cup, I think it's going to throw up some very surprising results. Ghana will go through ahead of Portugal. I don't think Portugal will get them. I think there'll be many surprises.
I mean, we've just been speaking about African nations in the World Cup. At least Cameroon. I remember 30 years ago. Do you think we might see within maybe the next 10 years African nation winning the World Cup, or do you think we just still a little way away from seeing that kind of quality in the World Cup, James?
Well, I think it's a great question, Alec. This, for all the criticism of Qatar, which in some quarters is absolutely right, you have to remember that this is also the last World Cup before this once is completely ruined. In 2026, it goes to 8 nations. It goes to a round robin where you don't even have to win a game of football or score to the next round. This is not a meeting. This is a football tournament. If you are not, and will come again. And for me, this World Cup represents the end, really, where it's just so bloated. I mean, you're talking about natural progression of 16, 24, 32, 48, and no doubt it will be 64. But this used to be the highest barometer.
Yeah.
I was very fortunate to interview the second most famous game England played at a World Cup after winning it, honor in '86, and the whole eyes of the world on it. It would be African nation was to win this one. It really would. I mean, I will go on record and say that team facing a European team, I will be supporting the African team to have a European nation winning for the 5th time. It's not healthy.
Yeah.
I believe a South American nation will win it. It would be lovely. And you have to think back to 2010 with Asamoah's spot kick that would have sealed Ghana's place. They would have had a chance against the Netherlands. They weren't completely without a single chance. I mean, the Netherlands semi-final, 4 of the 11 mainstays of that Uruguay team didn't play. Otherwise, I'm absolutely 100% certain of that. So it would be poetic if a country was to win it, especially this one. But because it is very important, because the times of I think it was the late 70s where after a peer, there used to only be one entrant, one of that one team representing Africa in a World Cup.
Yeah.
And then it I think it was a great quote from Tim Vickery on the Brazilian shirt name podcast tournament that you can't qualify for. How can you win a tournament for? And what they've done for this year's World Cup, that went through, but no, it wasn't this time round. It was a playoff, and the likes of Egypt didn't make it. The likes of Nigeria didn't make it. That tells you all you need to know. We in my lifetime, Cameroon and others have reached the World Cup as well. Nigeria, Elise in the past. It's important. It's a world game. It's not. Then you have people saying, "Oh, the European Championships are much stronger." That's also been diluted. It's also been diluted, and that will eventually go to 32 before you know it.
Yeah.
And the mystique of it all. I mean, I keep going back to it, but my early Arsenal memories, seeing Cyril Makanaki with his dreadlocks, never, and he would twist and he would turn and he had really. You thought, wow, he's just. I mean, every World Cup, I can reel off a player that I didn't know. I know an awful lot, but I remember as a kid being charmed by Cyril Makanaki. I remember Anderson in Sweden, 98.
Oh yeah,
Davor Suker, with Ronaldinho. 2006, Fabio Grosso was. But he scored the winning penalty for Italy. If you look at 2010 as well, the that Uruguay side was just nothing short of incredible. The Netherlands with they were written off under Van Gaal. 2018 as well. Games I think I've ever seen was Uruguay, Portugal, and that amazing goal Argentina. I don't think I've ever seen a ball struck so sweetly in my life. This World Cup that will stay long in the memory, and people will discuss them, but and I'm not going to be able to see it all.
Yeah.
But try to get as much as we can, and just the fact that the world comes into your living room for 1 month. The world with the flags and with the people, and I love seeing the national anthems. The hour of their lives, because that's what it should be, shouldn't it? So very excited.
James, just a couple more questions before we wrap up this segment here. So when do you think the Netherlands can get their act together and eventually win a World Cup? Because they're still one of the best nations not to have won the World Cup.
Well,
what's happening?
If I can, history lesson. In 1974, it wasn't just the Germans. It was about humiliating them. And Willem van Hanegem filled as this country's ever produced, saying himself that he was affected by, it was still fresh in his mind as a young man and experienced, and he wanted to not just beat the Germans, he wanted to humiliate. He ate with Cruyff not being there because of a fear of a potential kidnap. And then was just, I remember watching an article, watching a press conference, and obviously when you understand, I mean, I knew of 1974, 98 team, but when I could understand what they were saying, and when you live in the first World Cup abroad, it was just that just hit me like a ton of bricks. My first 2006, my life just stood still for a month. I was just bam. And I remember newspaper headlines when they got knocked out by Portugal, and Van Basten with the headline, "It's not a disgrace thing." And 2010 with Van Marwijk as well. As soon as they made their way into the final, he said, which translates in English to the following: to stop Spain, we have to kick Spain. Him say that, I thought, no, you're done. That's it. You're done. Finished. I remember taking a phone call from a friend of mine the day of the World Cup final, and my friend asked me what's going 1-0, and he got really upset with me. And I said to him, look, I'm of course in his mother tongue of what Van Marwijk said, but if the Netherlands would have just played they would have beaten Spain if they would have played their natural game. I mean, there's a great quote from who said recently on a football show in the Netherlands here, Veronica Inside. He said, in the dressing room, and everybody was as white as a sheet. He said that this didn't happen in the semi-final. This didn't happen in the quarter-final of the last signal. They had a great chance in 2018 with Van Gaal as well, the finest coaches of his generation, if not the finest. But it's not bring someone back for the third time in a time span of 20 years. England bringing Bobby Robson back 3 times in 20 years. Literally. I interviewed his goalkeeper coach, Frans Hoek, who spoke early about 2014 and the togetherness and the unity. But they need situation sorted out. Mark Flecken must be the number one. I'm not saying he was an unknown in the German third division, but he plays for Freiburg and he hardly concedes at home and abroad. You only need to look and see where Freiburg are in the Bundesliga, in the Europa League. Look at their stats, look at their goals conceded. Mark Flecken has got, but it's as if, yes, Vasilison is kind of eyeing that one up or expecting to get it. I can see them struggling against Senegal and Ecuador, and I can see them maybe reaching finals.
Goodness. And James, last but not least, we've not spoken about England, James. We haven't spoken about England.
I would. I'm very happy in that I can become England manager. I would say, where do I sign? I'd do £1 a year. I'd do it for 1/5 with. And do you know what I'd do? You're talking poppycock, but go around to all 92 of the league grounds. Speak to people. Let them see that I've come to watch you. And scout. It's amazing how the most dangerous will not be a part of the World Cup because it's just Harry Kane. He needs help. He can't do it all on his own. I was very fortunate to interview my copy who played under Arrigo Sacchi at Milan. And this is the famous Milan side. And he said a great quote: all great champions, they have to learn to play together. And to play together. I find it absurd how Jamie Vardy's not in the squad, how Maddison going or not going, how Reece James is, but unfortunately he's injured. But he is the best right back we have, and we said that partnership as well. Maguire doesn't play for his club, so how can he play for his country? Rashford, I think Rashford's only just started to score. I mean, I mainly was on the pitch at Euro 2020. We might have won it, and if he was in the final against Croatia, it's just absolutely unreal. I mean, if Southgate's got any, just pick him, because I mean, yes, it was only, but he rolled back the years yesterday with finishes like that, and his finishes were sublime. You asked Rashford to have that same finish, or Sterling to have that same finish. Tammy Abraham scoring goals for fun in Roma.
Yeah.
Is he not looking outside of England then? If you pick Tammy Abraham, Harry Kane, Jamie Vardy, Rashford, and I think example of 5. Bamford, Kane, Vardy, Abraham, and Rashford. All 5 of them. All 5 of them can give you something different, which you will need in a World Cup. You might need the heading ability of Bamford. You might need the pace. You might need the coolness of Kane and Vardy, and you might need the opportunism of Abraham. But I doubt he's thinking along those lines, unfortunately.
But James, very quickly with Jamie Vardy, did I don't know? Did Southgate not try hard enough to keep him in the England squad, or does Vardy just actually say, I've just retired because I'm fed up? Why do we not see Jamie Vardy in the England setup?
We've got a manager
who doesn't go,
we've got a manager, Alex, who doesn't go above and beyond. I mean, it to Arsene Wenger, right? Jamie Vardy had won the Premier League with Leicester, was top scorer of the whole of England. Jamie Vardy goes to speak to Arsene Wenger and what does Arsene Wenger say to him? I can't guarantee you a place in the starting. scorer in the Premier League who's just won the league with Leicester. So you don't say to him, I can't guarantee you. You say, Jamie, you are here to help us finally win in Europe, to add to your trophy haul. That's why you're here. But I maintain with Jamie Vardy, he was that he said the brotherhood of Leicester is what kept him Leicester, and I believe Jamie Vardy, but I also, and I've gone on record many times in the face, Wenger did not try hard enough to get that Jamie Vardy deal. I think he was just winging it, and that for me is a massive shame, because he would have signed for Arsenal. He'd also been on 100 goals for Arsenal. I'm no doubt about that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Yeah, but anyway, so England won't be winning the World Cup. It won't be coming home, James.
No, it will remain Sir Ralph and Bobby and Mr. Banks and Martin Peters and and Jeff Hurst. They will remain. And shout out to Jimmy Greaves as well, who spread the gospel that we were going to win it, and immortals. But so it's Alf Ramsey as well. Still does. Even now, the man still does not get enough credit. I was listening to where I can't remember the name of the author, but he wrote a book on Sir Alf, saying that Alf was originally from Dagenham, and he was worried in the first instance when he went into management. But he ended up taking elocution to pronounce words better.
Wow.
And obviously you see when you listen to him now, and in history, it's the same as Jock Stein at Celtic, it's the same as Ferguson at Manchester United, the same as Nottingham Forest. These are very, very special football managers.
James, it's always a pleasure having you on. I know I always say this, but it's very interesting. I like listening to you, and I get to learn a lot of stuff that I was unaware about, because my vision of football is quite narrow. I need to kind of broaden it, a little bit wider. But James, thank you again to coming back on Cannon 40 TV. Have you ever spoken to Tim Vickery? Have you spoken to Tim Vickery?
We've had correspondence before.
Oh wow!
But we haven't spoken. They were called the Brazilian Shirt Name Podcast with Dr. Adebayo, who's also extremely were over the moon, to say the least, when I told them a piece of their podcast that they did with Mark Clattenburg was placed on a Dutch football show, which included a panel of Ruud Gullit and Van Basten, both completely over the moon, because they didn't expect it to happen. And so I let them know via Twitter, the cast has been brought forward onto Dutch TV and like put up on the screen for Marco Van Basten and Ruud Gullit, and I think they were over the moon. And I think Doten has about saying that it's the first time that such a thing has happened, where their podcast has been put. But he was just making a point about what Clattenburg said. But in the case, he's the best analyst of Dutch football, and mine, who did me a huge favour. I'll just tell you before I go, the pandemic with the with the vaccines. I have a friend of mine who was
oh no! Oh, look at that! Just that. The signal was just.
But my Van Basten, when we were. Hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now, James. It went just slightly, but we can hear you. You are back, James.
Hello,
James, we can hear you. Yes, we can. We can.
Yes.
Yes.
Good. Sorry about that. Wonders is my friend was waiting to get his vaccine, and he stood in front of him, and they have a mutual friend, and my friend said to Marco van Basten, called James Rowe, and he does football interviews, and he interviewed your former teammate, and Marco van Basten apparently said to my friend, what is extremely impressive, but at the moment I'm not doing any interviews whatsoever, which I feel amazing for him to mention my name to Marco van Basten. And for Marco van Basten, sounds very impressive, but at the minute I'm not doing anything, and it's coming up to my year without a publisher, which has been a difficult year in some quarters. It really has, especially potentially 2 Premier League managers that you've spoken to if Nathan Jones is appointed. So it is still out there that might like to take on my interviews, and but they'll feel free to get in touch, and we shall see what happens.
Yeah. And James, everyone can find you on LinkedIn these days.
Yes, people can find me on LinkedIn. I've had a very busy. A Dutch professional manager asked me to help him find a new club, and I've also had asked me to help his client, who's a former find the new club. So it's amazing how people want to. Once again, people that might wonder why I'm not on Twitter. I was round the bend by media employees of, among others, Millwall, who were expecting to use my knowledge and wanting to ride off my knowledge, work for a professional football club. I would give up my life in this country after 16 and a half years to. Why not hire me instead? But wasn't meant to be. But as I say, on a great portfolio, and things happen how they happened. It's important to, and it's amazing how you tell the truth and you get courage, strange indeed. But it is what it is, and we will come back, and what will be
onwards and upwards. So again, James, thank you for coming on and giving us your precious time on Cannon Foy TV. And I think we will have James back on again, and I'm hoping he'll feature on the Easy Talk this side of 2022. But James, again, thank you for giving us your time. And go on, James. So you're going to say something, James, very quickly.
You're more than welcome. I really enjoy it. So people have enjoyed the European segment, and I hope to be speaking about the game, attending the potential home game, although it will very, very much depend on opponents for me. For seeing the opponent play live before, I will forego that game, and somebody else will have a great memory. Whereas if it's a Real Sociedad or a Betis or a Freiburg, looking at least a double header.
Brilliant. So that's it. That's it from James and myself on this Thursday evening show here, and we shall see you next time on Cannon Foy TV, the channel for Arsenal fans all over this world.